Welcome. I'm Heather Wolcott, and you are tuning in to the Health and Nutrition Success Show, helping you achieve all things health. Are you ready to prioritize and optimize your health? Join me for inspiring, motivating, and educational steps for you to think about playing the long game when it comes to your health and your life. I share stories around how implementing lifestyle changes have changed others' lives, and you will learn how you can do the same. I love blowing minds with cool tips and hacks that can make a significant difference if you try them, and to see the bigger picture of what happens if you don't. After the show, send me an email to let me know how this show has impacted you or the health of someone you love. Health and nutrition success starts now.
Hey everyone, welcome. You just heard that this show is the Health and Nutrition Success Show. This is an area of expertise that Heather Wolcott excels in. The people that Heather gets to help, it's just unquestionable about what we can do and how we can do it to be strong. Today's episode is right on point. Muscle and movement, the key to aging strong and staying healthy. So today what we're going to do is we're going to remove the veil, lift it up, and talk about what are the things we believe that are true and what are the things we believe that are not true. But Heather, right, let's come out of the gate and let's talk about one of the most, I think, controversial things that people believe, not the truth, about muscle. Why is it so important? Why do we lose it? And why can't we have hope that we can still stay strong?
Okay, so I'm going to come out of the gate and start with a phrase that I love and I've adopted, but I wish I could say I originated it. It's not my own statement, but I'm going to say that muscle is your organ of longevity. Now we think about all the organs we have in our body, and everyone worries about their heart and they worry about their brain, and those are important organs too, but they are not going to work as well if you don't have muscle mass. And I'm going to explain why later. So if muscle is your organ of longevity, what does that mean? And it means that the more muscle you have, the longer you will live, because muscle is metabolically, it's your metabolic sink. It is your metabolic flexibility, and it helps dispose glucose, which is one of the leading causes to a lot of the things that people are dying from is insulin resistance and high blood glucose levels. So coming out of the gate, muscle is going to be your organ of longevity, and you want to frame your lifestyle, your diet, your movement, everything around how do I build and maintain and preserve muscle mass.
And I want to talk about this today because there are so many things that I hear, and I work with people of all ages, but it's really hard to watch people you care for as they go through the aging process, just give up. They give up the notion that, and I'm not telling, look, I'm just being really clear. These are not people that are like 70, 80 years old. These are people like, ew, I'm 45 and I don't, it's not just about an age, it's about a mindset that we're creating here.
It is. And what people don't realize is if they were active when they were younger, they don't realize that they have to maintain that as they get older. They kind of think that, I was strong, I've done it before, but muscle is a use it or lose it system in our body. And especially for women, because our hormones start declining at around age 40, 35 to 40, once we hit 40, we'll just say 40, we start losing about 1% of our muscle mass every year. And so if you 20 years later, when you're in your 60s and you're worried about osteoporosis and everything else that starts happening when you hit 60 and older when it comes to degenerative diseases, that's 20% of your muscle is lost. And I always say muscle and bone are sisters. So as you're losing muscle, you're losing bone. And people are more aware of the dangers of osteoporosis, but they don't associate that with the importance of having muscle. And so I convey that very strongly with my clients. It's kind of that hill I'll die on in a lot of conversations when I talk to a lot of people about fitness, a lot of people about exercise, and I know a lot of active people. And here's what I'm going to tell you. Being active is great. Being active doesn't mean you're building muscle. There are two different pathways. They're both important, but you can't get by on just one of them. You really need to do something to build and maintain muscle.
I love that we're talking about this because the science has evolved. I mean, I remember oh, wow, don't let me date myself, but I remember the first time Schwarzenegger came on the scene and how comical he was, but how right he was. Now, I am not saying here that you all should shoot for a Schwarzenegger body because that's not really what he was saying. And there are many, many, many other people that came forward about this. But we now understand the science of muscles better than we ever have, don't you think?
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of that science came from bodybuilders. Bodybuilders are our original biohackers. They played guinea pigs on themselves. And here's one thing that I challenge some studies often, because you have clinicians who are working one-on-one with people. You have personal trainers who are in the gym. You've got practitioners who are seeing patients every day. You've got chiropractors who are working on people's bodies. You've got people who are in the field, right? They're working with people. And then you have researchers who are in laboratories and they're doing studies, and it's not necessarily on humans. Oftentimes it's on mice or it's on rodents. And then you get some research that's about 10 years behind what the clinicians have been doing, or what the bodybuilders have been doing. Like creatine has just finally exploded and it on the scene. And creatine has been used for decades by people in the bodybuilding industry and in the health and wellness in the fitness industry. And so there's this lag time. And so for people who aren't following the clinicians or the practitioners, they're just only following the research, they're a little bit behind on the times because research is always delayed. So yeah, science is getting there. We're finally getting more research on this and more discussion about this. And I think it's due to a lot of people in the forefront who are really out there talking about strength and muscle and the importance of it, because it's not, Schwarzenegger, I mean, those physiques are amazing. And I can promise you, no one listening to the show ever will look like that if they just go into the gym and start lifting weights. To achieve that type of body requires a whole nother level of commitment and other things, right?
It does. Well,
Or
this
the
is his
environment.
profession. This was
It's his
his profession, though. I mean, this was, I'm going to be a bodybuilder. I'm going to make a lot of money from it. I'm going to have. And by the way, Arnold Schwarzenegger is by far, okay, a little personal, may not be true. I believe Arnold Schwarzenegger set the bar so high for the perfect bodybuilding physique. No, not everybody's going to want it. Maybe you want to look like Ali Larder or something. I don't know. But let's talk about this, because here's the thing. What does muscle do?
Yeah.
It supports our balance. It does a lot of other things. Let's talk to that. Yeah. Because this is at the crux of how to have a great life, isn't it?
So let's just put this out there. The 4 leading causes of death: type 2 are diabetes, metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease, and Alzheimer's, and obesity. Obesity is actually different than metabolic syndrome. Having muscle will negate the cause for all of those, because first of all, muscle is metabolically active. But like I said, it's a sink for glucose. And when you look at all of these diseases that are killing people, there's an insulin resistance component, and there is high blood sugar levels, which damages arterial arteries, which causes neural inflammation, which causes a host of other issues. So if you get to the root of how can I manage my blood glucose, how can I become more insulin sensitive, and cancer is also in there, you will reduce your risk significantly of all the 5 major killers. So that's the first thing we have to look at. Type 2 diabetes is like an epidemic that it's never been before. I mean, it's ridiculous. When I was a kid, when you were a kid, it was juvenile diabetes, and it was so rare. And now it's, and now it's onset. It's type 2. It used to be juvenile onset juvenile diabetes, but now it's type 2 diabetes, and it's hitting people of all ages. And that can be reversed in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, you can absolutely reverse the symptoms of type 2 diabetes, because it's all lifestyle. And so you start looking at the function of muscle in the body. And I always tell people, muscle is your armor. If you're going to go into war, you want to have armor. You want to have really strong armor. And I'm talking like you want to go into battle of life, of aging. It gets harder as we get older. Everything gets harder. We start losing our hormones. We lose our strength. We lose some bone. We're not as vibrant as we are in our 20s. It doesn't mean you can't, but if you're not doing anything, then there's a decline. And you want to go into aging and life with the best armor that you can possibly put on. And that's what your muscle is. It protects you from so many things. So it's so important. I can't even it's like my favorite thing to talk about. But people overlook it and they just think, well, I'm active and I walk, or, there are a lot of those are good things which we're going to talk about, but it's not putting on muscle.
It's not. And you know what's fascinating about it? Let's walk through this too, because what's fascinating about it is people are not fully aware of all the ways and all the tools and everything that is available to them to do this. Once upon a time, it was you have to go to the gym. Now, I'm not saying that you don't have to go to the gym unless you have a full system, unless you are truly Shakari Richardson and you're trying to shave off 0.011 second out of the gate, right? But now we have so many things. And I want to talk to this for a minute, because let's talk about what we're not doing. There are statistics out there right now, and there's a difference between this training and that training, strength training and this training, aerobics and this. And I would guarantee you that most people don't even know the difference. They're like, oh, I'm running, or, oh, I'm walking. And then I have my friend, and the only thing she's got, what is she, 80? How old is she now? 86. And if you watch her take her multicolored stretch band exercise bands, she will put you to shame. And people looked at her and said, that's not going to help you. So let's clarify things for people today, if you don't mind.
Yeah. And so, and we'll be clear that activity is really important. Okay. Daily activity. And there's something called NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So that's everything that you're doing in the day when you're moving. As I am my Italian and I talk with my hands, if you tap your foot, if you unload your dishwasher and you fold your clothes, every little thing you're doing is called NEAT. You're not doing it with a program in mind, right? And then you have structured activity and structured exercise. Now that can look like playing a sport, that can be playing your table tennis, and those are all good things, but that is not what builds muscle. So in order to build muscle, there has to be an overload. You have to create a tension. There has to be a stress on the bones and on the muscle in order for it breaks down. So you tear the muscle fibers, and then it builds back stronger. I mean, that's very, very basic anatomy, but let's just go with that visual. So when you're doing something, okay, so bands are fantastic because there's a tension there. The thinner the band, the easier the band, the thicker the band, the more resistance, right? So there's equivalence with weights, with all that kind of stuff. You can use bands almost anywhere. I use them outside in front of my house, around a tree branch sometimes, around a pole. During COVID, I went to the park and there was a big telephone or a big lamp post, and I put my bands around there and I did a whole lot of stuff, right? Bands are fantastic. Dumbbells, kettlebells, barbells, all those things are in the realm of strength training. But you also have to be very careful. This is where I make enemies. If you are going to boot camps, if you're going to fitness classes at the gym, if you're going to Orange Theory, if you're going to F45, you're going to these classes and they are using weights. I'm not going to say that's bad. What I'm saying is that is cardio with weights. So yes, you're active. Yes, you're moving something that's got some weight and resistance to it, but that is not the same thing as a structured strength training program that is organized, that is phased, that has 3 different goals with rep ranges and tempo and the weights used. And that's where people need to spend, I think, more time, because where people are living in this fitness class world, and there's a lot of community there, and there can be a lot of positive things that come out of going to those classes. I know so many people who love them. They're not getting the results that they want in their body composition because they're not really doing progressive overload. And so they're creating a lot of inflammation. They're raising their cortisol. They're not losing fat. Their body composition isn't changing in the right way. So we also have to be very clear when we talk about weight loss. We might jump to this a little bit later, but there's a difference between, everyone says, I want to lose weight. And I say, no, you don't. You want to lose fat.
Thank you.
I could cut my arm off and I could lose 10 pounds, but that wasn't the kind of weight that I want to lose.
Right.
We can lose muscle or we can lose fat. And the type of training, the type of exercise that we do will determine if we're being catabolic or anabolic.
let's talk about this, because here's the thing that I learned. Now, I want to just back up for a minute, and I want to just go back and summarize. There is a phrase in the world that I grew up, whether it was playing professional softball, table tennis, whatever it was, there was a phrase, because we all had to go through training and trainers. Let's just say that that was like, my coach would not work with me unless I had a trainer. He would say in a very broken Ghana African accent, "You're wasting my time." And what he meant by that is, of course, you can perfect things, but you're not getting stronger here. And so I want to talk about this because many people don't know what you just said. They don't know that if you build muscle, what might we lose? You see, we don't have that equation, because we're under, if I do this, I'll lose weight, I'll lose fat. Explain the science of how muscle actually helps people lose weight and fat.
Yeah. So muscle is metabolically active. It has a higher resting metabolic rate than fat. So the more muscle you have, the more calories your body is burning just existing. The more fat you have, fat is very slow metabolically, and you're not burning as many calories at rest. So we have something called our basal metabolic rate, or BMR. That just means if I just lie in bed all day and I just don't move, I just lie there, burning calories. It's not like you have to move to burn calories. Every organ system in your body is active, is moving. Our brain uses 25% of all of our calories during the day to keep everything operating. So we're burning calories no matter what. The more muscle you have, the more calories you will burn at rest, which means eventually you will shift that body composition. You will burn more fat as you build your muscle. And so another way of looking at it is, we obviously have an obesity epidemic in our country. I mean, you can't deny it. You can't ignore it. Anywhere you go, you're going to see people who are overweight. And some of them really don't know. I mean, they're trying all the things. They're starving themselves. They're doing all this weight loss, fat loss. They're doing all these things. And so I love shifting that and thinking, instead of considering these people like over fat, what if we say they're under muscled? What if we shift it and think, if they would build muscle, that percentage of body fat starts going down, because now we're raising something that's more metabolically active, and that's going to be denser. It takes up less space. So, have you ever seen the pound of muscle and a pound of fat? Like,
Yeah.
the pound of fat is like this big blob, and then muscle is like really dense, right? It's like a filet versus a ribeye. You can have the same, a pound of a filet and a pound of a ribeye. Well, ribeye has a lot more fat in it, and it's just gonna look different than the pound of the filet. So we want to be filet mignons. You want your body to be a filet, not a ribeye. We want to have more muscle than we have fat. And in doing that, so strength training is the one type of exercise that truly, it sculpts our body. It's like taking clay, and you look at these bodybuilders, and people do not have to be bodybuilders by any means. And you might not even know this, but from year to year, from, whether it's Mr. Olympia or whatever these competitions are, these former bodybuilders would go for a different look every year. Like, they could basically change the shape of their body as if it was a clay, like there's a potter that is sculpting them to have, their delts pop in a different way, to have the calves pop in a different way, and to shape themselves from year after year after year while maintaining very, low body fat. But that's what you can do with strength training, is you can shape and you can sculpt your body. When you're just doing cardiovascular activity and you're going for a jog, you're going for a run, you're on your bike, you're on the elliptical, you're swimming laps, those are fine. But where people get tripped up is they do those things in order to lose weight, and they can lose weight, but it's not the weight they want to lose. It's losing muscle, and it's not losing fat for the most part. So that's the difference. You're either building your body or you're breaking your body down.
Now, I want to talk about this. Do you have a sense of where we are as Americans here and what we're doing? Do you give us a sense? Because it is very clear to anyone that is out in the world or even watches television, just watch the commercials on television. Every weight loss commercial, once upon a time, you wouldn't see somebody over 120 pounds. in a commercial like that. Now you're seeing something else going on, but you're not getting the information you need to inject yourself with something, right? I'm not saying not to. Whatever you do, go see your doctor, right? Whatever we're talking about here today, you need to go see your doctor and make sure, oh, I'm going to go do that muscle training. You know what? Go talk to your doctor. Say, hey, I want to go to the gym and I want to lift weights. See, what we're talking about today has a holistic approach to it. But I want to have some statistics because there's something that's happening right now. And what it is we're selling equipment for the home that looks like you're going to get a great fit of a workout. And I have one of those pieces of equipment. I said to Linda the other day, I have pushed my max on this piece of equipment. It's the foldy up equipment. And I said, I cannot add enough weight because I put a bar to the leg press. Then I put the weights on the bar. I said, I'm not getting a burn anymore in my legs when I do this. I'm not building muscle.
Mm-hmm.
And you get looked at like, are you kidding me? Well, why do you have to do that? Why do you have to feel that pain? So for somebody that wants to build muscle, you can feel when you've gotten to the point where you know your muscle is going to grow. But before we get to that and we start to talk about strength, cardio, and so many other things, where are we as Americans? That's what I want to know.
I just wanted to throw out the statistics, and these are humbling for me because I live in a bit of a bubble. So I'm at a gym all the time. I'm in functional health and wellness. My friends are pretty active, right? So I have created an environment that's not it doesn't reflect what our country really looks like, right? But I do live in the South. I moved from Arizona to the South, and it definitely looks different here. So just, you might think, oh gosh, I know everyone's kind of on the exercise wagon. No, they're not. Right now, approximately, this is from the CDC, aerobic activity. That just means walking, jogging, swimming, biking. 47% of adults meet that guideline for aerobic physical activity. That is less than half of Americans are active. That basically almost half. So just basically, let's just say half of Americans are not active. They're not doing, they're below the guidelines. When it comes to aerobic training and strength training, 24% meet the guidelines. 24%, a quarter of Americans are both doing aerobic training and muscle strengthening activities. And that is ages 18 and older. Now, here's the thing. When you look at 65 and older, which is really a population I'm very, very passionate about. I've got a huge heart for, as people age, to stay strong and to stay cognitive sharp and just all the things. I just think it's so crucial. When you're looking at ages 65 and older with aerobic and muscle strength activities, 14%. 14% of Americans 65 and older are both strength training and doing aerobic activity.
Is that because we don't? So this is why I wanted to talk with you, because look, even around my circle, they look at me like, you need more equipment. Or that's the look I get. Why would I need more equipment? Because I have exhausted the piece of equipment I have. I have exhausted its ability to build the kind of muscle I'm looking to build. Right. So what I find is happening, especially to the people around me who may have something similar at home, they think this is working. And when they come over and we do the workout together, they are like, oh my gosh, I'm never coming over here again. I'm like, but what are you doing? I mean, you're like, doing what? Like this, what, like just for fun? But it doesn't always have to be pain. It depends on what your goal is, correct?
Right. Absolutely. And I think, you brought up Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I did. I love Arnold. I got his big fat book. I got the big fat book in like the first year it came out, that big fat book.
I love it. And I think people, like women, men, they think that if they go to the gym, it has to be that. And women were never really encouraged to strength train for many, many, many years. And if so, it was with the little tiny weights, and it was the pink weights. And they're like kind of rubbery over, they're like not even like iron, they're like plasticky. and they go up to maybe 10 pounds and they start at 2. And, you know, I see women in the gym with these things and it makes my head want to explode because I look at them and I bet half of them go down to the childcare and pick up a kid who weighs 45 pounds, holds them on their hip, lugs them in a car seat with groceries that weigh way more than 3.5 pounds. But yet they go to the gym to strength train and they're not doing anything. And so I think women have underestimated how strong we are and how strong we can be. And it's a mindset. People just think, I don't want to get bulky. I don't really know what to do. And some people just don't know what to do.
That's
And
it.
that's a huge piece of it too. So I love to educate and I love to explain to people. And actually, and I'm now certified as a personal trainer. So I'm so excited to be able to write programs for people and to direct them to some really good resources. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to kill you. It doesn't have to be deadlifting and benching for, you know, max reps at all. But you need to challenge your bone and you need to challenge your muscle. Now, even for you, as I'm hearing you talk about your piece of equipment that you've maxed out, there are still ways to make a lightweight feel
Yes.
heavy, which
Yes.
is slow, slow, slow.
Bingo.
Which is, you probably have done that too, but you push that weight for 30 seconds for one floor petition and you will be on fire, right?
Exactly.
So
That's
much.
what I've resorted to, by the way.
Yeah, you just have to do it more slowly. And that's what they did years and years and years ago. I mean, like decades ago, when soldiers were training and iron was really scarce because of the war, and they didn't really have iron to just become, you know, dumbbells. They had lower weight dumbbells for some of these military guys, and they would just move the weight really slowly. You have to figure out how to make a lighter weight feel heavy. And it's by tempo, it's by your speed. Isometric holds. There's so much that we can do, but it's shifting out of this mindset of, oh, that's so hard and that's just, it's so painful. There's two ways to answer that question. One is it doesn't have to be, you know, you can go in there and find some exercises that are really skill based that are still going to build strength, but that you work at. It's like, hey, I want to get better at the squat. I want to get better at a Turkish get up. I want to get better at an overhead press. And it's really that mindset of these are skills that I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to learn how to do better. I've been lifting since I was 15 years old. I've been in a gym. So that's a very long time. I've done a lot of all the things, but I can still make my squat better. I can still make my deadlift better. I can still work on some new lifts with, you know, positioning the weights. I've just started doing Zercher squats and Zercher deadlifts, and that was a huge challenge for me. And I've doubled basically what I can do for my very first time. So if people approach it with, hey, I want to get better at doing this, instead of I have to go in and go through this routine and it's not fun. That's one way of answering the question. The other way I answer that question is I don't care. You know, there are a lot of things that I do every day or every week that I don't really love doing. I don't love doing the dishes. I don't really love putting clothes away. I don't love having to clean my bathroom, but I do it because it needs to get done. So I don't have a high tolerance for whining when it comes to activity and fitness, because we were blessed with a body that is amazing and that can be really strong if we train it to be really strong. It's incredible what the human body can do. And for people to sit around and not use it, they will lose it. And they're going to lose a whole lot else if not using it. So I don't have a lot of empathy. I don't like the little bit of the whiny. I usually kind of hit them with, too bad, you can do it twice a week. And for 45 minutes, you can do anything. So two ways to answer that question. It doesn't have to be terrible, but go do it.
Yeah, and that's really what I want to talk about. I want to take a short break. Congratulations on the certification, because now we're living in a world, and you know, people ask me about the pandemic, and I always point to things that have happened because we had to stay away. I often think about, I said, my buddy went from an in-gym trainer to a phenomenal Zoom trainer. And so when people say, oh, I don't, you know, YouTube, whatever you want to do. However, what I want to say to everybody listening, those of us out here, we had a Heather that we went to. We had someone that said, in a lot of different ways, but I love the no nonsense people, because when you set a goal, you really don't want people to be like, well, you could drink warm. No, you want somebody to say, ain't gonna work. Not drinking water, drink the water. You're not going to reach your goal. But the bottom line is you have people. Now, I want to say to all of you, if you are interested in making a change, you may not know where to start. You may think I could start on my own. I highly recommend you call Heather, contact Heather, because if nothing else, you'll get information to, one, support you to move forward. And number two, you may get in some insight that's personal for you. Last thing I want to say, Heather, before break is this is not a one size fits all. Schwarzenegger did not do a one size fits all. Neither did anybody else you see that developed. Gal Gadot, when she trained for Wonder Woman, did it a certain way, very different than Brie Larson or other people. Call Heather. Heather, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you and find out more about you?
Yes, reach out to me because I love talking about this in sleep. I could talk about strength training and sleep a whole lot. You will find reels of me training and content on the regular on Instagram. So that would be at Heather Johnson Wolcott on Instagram. It links to my Facebook. I post a lot of training stuff. My website is heatherwolcott.com. And my email is heather@heatherwolcott.com. Please reach out to me because I am offering some training specials and an upgrade to coaching with me with some training involved with that. I have clients that are virtual and I've got clients who are here local, and I figured out ways to do both. So I would love to have conversations with people and look at what they're doing, because this is when people come to me and we have our first call for 90 minutes, and I look at what they're eating, and then I look at how they're exercising or training or moving, and then why they're not losing weight or why they're whatever is not working for them. I can usually dial in really quickly. The food part is pretty easy, but I'm looking at their exercise and I'm like, what you are doing is absolutely not going to get you the results that you want, because that's not the right type of training for you. So yes, please reach out. Love to work with people.
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about strength and cardio, but most importantly, even if these words do not come out of your mouth, okay, I know you're thinking them, folks. I'm too old for this. Let's take a short break. When we come back, you're not too old, because my 86, 87-year-old, hello, if you watch her, what she's doing, and trust me, she just comes to the table tennis place to accompany her husband, right? Who is 80 something, who plays like a bandit. And she comes with the band. Now, is she doing a lot of work? No, but she's doing something. This woman carries a band in her purse. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. As I said before, you're listening to the Health and Nutrition Success Show. Keyword success. This is with Heather Wolcott, who has dedicated an entire life to helping us achieve all things health. Today, we are taking on the muscle and movement conversation, but it's not the only thing. If you decide that you want to make a change, Heather will be able to guide you through where do you start. Maybe you don't start working a muscle. Maybe you have to change something in your diet. Maybe you have to make a commitment to literally drink more than 0 glasses of water a day. But today, we're going to continue this conversation. Get your notepad out. Go back and listen to this. Strength cardio. Now, I am not saying that you cannot develop muscle with cardio, but I really need to be clear about what that looks like. Let me comment on that. I play a sport, and when I play the sport, I'm active. I may engage in something that causes me to feel some pain. But when I train with my coach, good luck not building muscle, because it's different. When you train in my sport, you're not just hitting a little ball back and forth. You're working with the guy that's moving you from one end of the table to the other nonstop at a ball that's coming at you at 50 miles an hour. And so if you want to feel a little of that, what did you call that? Lactate in the thighs? What is it that builds up? Thank you. When you start to feel that, and you think we're going to stop soon, your trainer is like, no, we're not. And so this is all part of it. But even that doesn't get a person like me to where we want to go. So I want to talk about this because some people really think in the cardio realm that they're really building something. I don't know enough to know whether they are or not.
So I love to start all my clients in the conversation around the signals that we're sending to our body. And this is where it all begins. So your body will adapt to the signal that it receives. And we are always in a state of adaptation or optimization. We are adapting to a new signal, and then we kind of optimize and we get really good at that. And then we change the signal, and then we have to, adapt, and then we kind of optimize to that. And let's talk about that when it comes to our body will adapt to it'll respond to the loudest signal that it gets. So if people want to lose weight, they typically think they need to start moving more and they start doing more cardio. Well, cardio is sending the signal to your body to downsize because now it has to move a lot of weight around. But muscle is very expensive real estate to have in the body. And so you're going to lose muscle before you're going to lose fat, because fat keeps us alive. Muscle is really like bonus, right? It's just this bonus stuff, and it's more expensive. It's metabolically more expensive, and it's metabolically heavier. So we think about the signal that we're sending. When it comes to cardio, this is the thing, and this is why you can do what you do to the extent that you do, because our body adapts to the signal of cardiovascular training pretty well in about 2 weeks. So when people want to go out and lose weight and they start running and they start jogging, they get better and they start feeling maybe they're losing some weight. In about 2 weeks, they've kind of adapted to that level, to that signal. And the body has calibrated the metabolism. It's like, okay, now we kind of are getting the same input. We're going to slow down metabolic rate here until the signal changes again, which means now they have to run longer. They have to run farther. They have to run faster. And then guess what happens? Then their body adapts. Okay. And so this is where I say it's like a downward spiral when we start approaching weight loss with cardio, because you're just going to keep adapting to it, and to the point where else are you going to go? Like, then you start getting into these marathons, and you start if you look at the physique of a sprinter versus a marathon runner, you can just see what happens, right? One is powerful and dynamic and explosive and anabolic, which is the sprinter. And then you've got the marathon runner, which is more catabolic, as they're just breaking tissue down, breaking tissue down. Now, when it comes to strength training, that signal, I always say you want to bang the gong with it. It needs to stimulate a hormonal response, which it can do. But you can, if you're doing program training, you can, in every few weeks, change that programming where your rep ranges change. So you might be starting in a strength phase where your reps are 1 to 4 reps. If you're lifting something 1 to 4 times, 6 times over 6 sets, that weight looks very different than picking up a weight you're going to lift 15 times,
right?
3 sets. And this is where the beauty of strength training comes in, because it, like a sculptor, right? It's sculpting the body. You can send a different signal to the muscles every time you're training. Now, you don't want to keep doing something different every time. That's why programmed, organized strength training is really, really important. You want to stay in a phase for about 3 weeks where you're doing the same couple, I have, 2 to 3 routines. You're building strength, and then guess what? You change the signal, and you're still lifting weights, but you're going to change the rep range. You're going to change the weight that you're lifting, and you're going to send a new signal, and the body will adapt to that. But as it adapts, it's building and it's maintaining muscle mass. When you do that with cardio, you're just breaking down. And those are the 2 main differences when it comes to that. So it's what signal are you sending your body, because your body will adapt to the loudest signal. Now, physical activity is really important. I mean, like, cardiovascular stuff for your heart.
Yeah.
But if that is what you're doing, if that's the loudest signal your body's getting, you're not going to be able to build the muscle unless the strength training is louder.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a balance of both.
And I think the understanding of this is important. That's why we're doing this, because I wish I had $1 for everyone that I've talked to in my sport, or people that want to play a sport, because I do play more than one sport. I also was a professional fast pitch player. But the bottom line is, people just don't know. And they read something, or they'll pick up a magazine that say, oh, I'm going to start jogging. And then then they go jogging, but they don't have the other piece of the pie. I want to skip to something, because this is really where we get some misinformation. And by the way, people can talk to you and they can figure out where they are, what to do. Because doing this blindly, I do not recommend it. I just don't. It may make you feel good for a couple of days. It will not keep you engaged, because there'll be a part of this where you're like, this ain't working. please work with someone. Please give Heather a call. Here's my pet peeve. I am too old. I'm never going to be the way I was. I'm never going to grow that muscle. Why should I even bother? You're going to have to take this because I don't even know what to say anymore when I hear it.
Yeah. So something that's really cool that can address this that I didn't say earlier that addresses this, the age factor. And a lot of people don't realize this. Strength is a signal from the central nervous system. Strength starts with the neural pathways. So it doesn't always have to be doing a whole lot of activity. It can be something that's stimulating the central nervous system, like a dead hang. Okay. So if you do something like a dead hang or isometric holds, which are fantastic, the brain and the body are connecting, but there is a central nervous system signaling that's happening to recruit neural pathways to the muscle fibers to fire. So what you want to do is get those muscle fibers to fire. It doesn't have to be hard. As people age, the research is very clear that they can still gain muscle. You can gain muscle at any age. Now, the hard part for people who are older when it comes to building muscle and maintaining muscle is they typically don't eat enough calories. They're not hungry. They don't have the appetite. They're not eating enough protein. And in order to build muscle, remember, muscle is metabolically active and it's hungry. So I always tell people you need to feed your muscle. Think about feeding this, like this little gremlin, like this hungry monster, right? That's your muscle. And so where older people will struggle with holding on to muscle and maintaining muscle is that they're not eating it. They don't have the appetite. They eat smaller portions and they're not getting nearly enough protein. So that's first piece of the hurdle is making sure that they're getting enough calories, they're getting enough protein to build the structure. I always say, you know, protein is like Legos. And if you want to build a really big tower, you need a lot of Legos. If you want to build muscle and you want to build structure, you need enough amino acids in order to make that happen. Remember, bone and muscles are sisters. So as you build bone, you build muscle. As you build muscle, you build bone. The things that build bone build muscle. So that's really, really important. But you can do so many things like your friend with the bands. That is a no-brainer. That is so easy. And I could not have this conversation without bringing in my dad. So my dad is 83 years old. He takes full-time care of my mom who has Alzheimer's and has gone through his own little health roller coaster a couple of years ago. He can dead hang twice a day for 90 seconds. 90 seconds. 90,
That's
90,
a lot.
83 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. It's as easy. And now they just got here last night. They're staying with us. And I have a pull-up bar that we put on their door frame. And my dad twice a day goes and hangs on it. It is as easy as hanging from a bar at any age. And even if you have to do it slightly supported, you put one toe down and you just kind of play around with how much body weight you're holding. But that grip strength is so critically important. Take something heavy. They're called farmer's carries. And you put something in each hand and a gallon of water in each hand, and you just walk back and forth in your kitchen a few times and you put it down. Just holding that weight, that isometric hold creates tension in the muscle fibers, central nervous system, sending neural connections to these muscle fibers to fire. That's where it starts. You don't have to be at a gym curling a barbell. And I mean, that's great too. But you don't have to start there. You can start with anything that creates tension in the muscles. It's time under tension where you feel a little bit of that fatigue. Your grip starts giving out. Your arms feel a little tired and you put the weight down. That alone is such a great place to start. It doesn't have to be hard. I love the bands. I love a bar. Just hang from a bar for a few seconds, 10 seconds, and then drop down. And then pick it back, go again and just hang for about, 5 or 10 seconds. Do that a few times a day. Watch what happens. Grip strength, back, everything starts engaging because the central nervous system is under fire.
That's what I wanted you to say. See, that's the key. And I love that you said that because I was in my garage the other day and the people that lived here before had this bar with chains on it.
Yeah.
Right. And I thought, and then the other day I was doing something, putting something up on a shelf, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's where they hang from. Yes. So now I have this bar. All I got to do is just get it where they put the hanging thing. They've made a special arrangement in the wood, the 2x4s or 2x8s in the ceiling. And this is his hanging bar with the chains on it. And why are we talking about this? Because we have to engage what did you say? Muscles are a system,
Yeah,
and
the
we
muscle
have to
is
engage.
it's a use it or lose it system. At age 40, I don't care how buff you were in your 20s and 30s. I don't care if you were all those bodybuilders, all the college football players. I mean, look at them now. They don't move around and they're not looking so good, right? It is a use it or lose it system. It needs to be stimulated. It needs to be signaled. It needs to be activated. It needs to be challenged, and it needs to be built. It does not happen from sitting around. And not again to, insult anyone who's doing a lot of these classes, the boot camp classes or these, Orange Theory classes. Those are great if you're I mean, I'd rather see people do that than nothing. But don't be fooled, because your injury is very high, and there's no progression. And I think that's an important piece I want to bring up, Dr. Pat, before
Yes,
we wrap up.
please.
It's always about progression. So when I have clients who I've put them on a program, a strength training program, I have one in particular, and she hasn't lost weight and she's really, really frustrated because she wants to lose weight. And I've asked, I'll ask her, are your lifts getting stronger? Oh yeah, I'm getting a lot stronger. Then there you go. Then you have made there's progress there. Muscle weighs more than fat. We need to build the metabolism. So as we build the metabolism, the body burns, at a higher rate. The fat will eventually come off. But I rather see people build muscle than, than chase the fat loss. But that's a key thing. So when my dad first started doing his dead hangs, I mean, he could barely do 20 seconds. I mean, his hands his grip was super weak, everything. I mean, his arms and whatever. His legs are pretty good because they live in a 2-story condo. He's up and down stairs. They walk hills. When they come here, they're up and down stairs all the time. I bought them weighted vests. So when they go on their walks, they've got weighted vests. So lower body strength is easier for most people.
Mm-hmm.
Upper body strength, that we lose, which is really, really important. So if you are starting something, you start where you are, you start wherever you are. It doesn't mean you have to be strong at the beginning, but if it's so cool to see progress. Gosh, I could barely do this. I could barely lift this weight 4 times, and now I can lift it 10 times. You just got stronger. There's progress in that. And that's what progressive overload in an organized, structured strength training program looks like. It progresses you. So that way, when you've kind of plateaued, you need to change up the routine. You can do all the exact same exercises, but we're going to change the rep ranges. We're going to change the amount of weight. We're going to create a new signal, a new stimulus, and keep that muscle building, keep maintaining it. And you also have to feed it, obviously. You have to give it the proper nutrition. But you can start at any place. Body squats, body weight, just some wall push-ups, just some floor push-ups. It's so easy to send a signal to your body to build muscle. It really
I have a question, and this is a question I got that I'm supposed to ask you for this show today. This is the question. I know we've got a few minutes left, but it's an important one. And the question is from somebody that I play with, and this is, let's just call her Mary. Mary has a question, and she wanted me to ask it. Mary says, I've gotten a lot of information about the sport that I play and when I should have protein. One of the articles I read said, this is what you do before you engage in your sport. But when you're done, or even when I'm done training, even when I'm done training, I was told I have a 20-minute window to eat some protein. Is that true?
There's a lot of camps on this. So
yes.
What I say is you have more than 20 minutes. There are some people, okay, here's the other difference, male versus female and the age, because for women, before we hit menopause, our hormones are part of what helps us build and maintain muscle. We have more testosterone, we have more estrogen. Those are anabolic hormones. As we age, those hormones decline in women pretty rapidly. They don't decline as much for men. So men can still maintain and build muscle off their testosterone. That's why you see men can do better. I still don't think it's optimal with like OMAD, 1 meal a day. They do better with intermittent fasting because their hormones are helping them carry muscle maintenance and muscle building. Women don't have that as much. Our hormones decline. And so we have to really rely on a mechanical stimulus, which is strength training, and a nutritional stimulus, which is food, which is eating. So there's that. So there's hormone sensitivity that's relative to Mary here. Okay, so I don't know how old she is, but that's one thing. Men, I think, can get by waiting longer to eat. after they train because they can rival that testosterone and the hormone, the HGH. Women, not so much. So it's really about timing and hormones. We are going to be more insulin sensitive within about an hour of when we eat. And whatever we eat after we train, it really just kind of gets sucked into our muscles when it comes to carbohydrates, because our muscles will suck in that circulating blood glucose and store it as glycogen. So when you think about we eat, our blood glucose levels rise, and then that's postprandial blood glucose levels, and then we want that blood glucose, level to come back down. That's a healthy pattern.
Yeah.
What helps bring that down faster is more muscle. The more muscle we have, it's like a glucose sink. So for Mary, I would say she has more than 20 minutes, but within an hour, it would be really important, because what's going to happen is she just stimulated her body, and the muscles are going to be looking for glucose. And if she's not feeding herself some carbohydrate and some protein, her body will raise her stress hormones in order to liberate that from the tissue. So it creates a stress response. When we don't feed our body, when we go into a state of fasting or a state of depletion, our body's like, okay, signal, this is a stress, this is a stress. So it will increase our stress hormones, and then we start breaking down our own tissue, and it will go through glucagon, which is, through the liver, and then it will take cortisol, which will take down some muscle tissue. So she's got a good hour. She doesn't have to freak out about 20 minutes, but I would say it'd be in her best benefit. And she wants protein and carbs.
Yeah. I love this. And I want to tell you, we're coming to an end, but I get laughed out a lot. Now, I play with a group of people that cook their own food. I mean, if you ever came to when we stop playing and we eat, it would be like you are at the most fantastic international Asian fusion. I mean, it's amazing. And then there's me with my little bag of organic baby food that I use for my carbohydrates, are low in sugar, and my protein drink, and laughing all the time at me. But it's what I need. That's my quick, let me get the carbs in and my protein drink. Now, I don't live my whole life like that, but I feel better. Heather, thank you so much. How do we get a hold of you? And I'd love to have your personal message. And again, just because I do it, it doesn't mean you should do it. You have to figure out what works. Now, my friends will sit down and eat a delicious soup with great noodles in it, fantastic broth in it, a protein, a beef and a chicken in a bowl. And I sit there and watch. And as I'm staring, they say, you need to drink this and eat this too. But this is really why we come to you, because everybody's different.
Everyone's different, and cultural backgrounds make a huge, food is so cultural, and what people eat and what they gravitate towards. And Americans are really into our protein powders and our protein bars and our quick and easy. And I love my protein shakes too. So, not throwing any shade on that. And I love the idea of the baby food, because I actually use that with my dog. When I give her raw beef, I throw baby food in there for the carbohydrates. So that's great. Please reach out to me. I would love to talk to people about this topic more, look at what they're doing, what their training is looking like, what the results are, what results do they want, what results are they not getting, because I guarantee it's in the programming. So you can reach me look at me on Instagram, Heather, at Heather Johnson Wolcott, same with Facebook, heatherwolcott.com, on my website, heatherwolcott.com for email. And I would love to program for people and just take a look at what they're doing and find why it's not working and tweak it. I love this topic a lot.
And I just want to say, don't be doing, no, I'm too old. You just heard us do an entire show on this, that is like a myth. Everyone out there could use some help on this. Heather, what's your last personal message? What do you want to leave us with today?
Muscle is your organ of longevity. It is your armor. You want to have more of it than less of it. And so the research shows the more muscle you have, the longer you live. It is directly tied to your longevity. It will reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, and depression. It is so, so important. You can start small. It doesn't have to be a massive barbell lifts at the gym. You can start with body weight, but you need to create some tension, some progressive overload and time under tension. Got to do it.
I love this. Thank you all. The timing of this is perfect. We're going to be talking about this more, because one of the things that I'm passionate about is debunking the aging myth
Yeah.
across the board. Heather, I can't thank you enough. Thank you
thank
so
you.
much. Thank you all for tuning us in, turning us on. If you want to find out anything about me, you can certainly go to unstuckable.com or you can go to thetransformationnetwork.com. We'll see you next time.
You have been listening to the Health and Nutrition Success Show, helping you achieve all things health on Transformation Talk Radio. I'm Heather Wolcott. Tune in second Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific for more pearls to inspire, motivate, and educate you to make changes in your and your family's health and lives. I love blowing minds with cool tips and hacks that can make a significant difference if you try them. In each episode, I share client stories about their successes and their wins. Send me an email to heather@heatherwolcott.com and let me know how the show has impacted you or what you've done to improve your health or the health of someone you love. You can also visit my website, heatherwolcott.com.